Hey everyone, this is the Norm and I'm Heather. I'm going to start off with a little bit of asking you to please like, follow. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and also leave us a nice review, 5 stars please, on any of the platforms that you're listening to.
I'm
I'll go
Rebecca.
ahead.
And I'm Laura. So, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm going to introduce you to Sweden's renowned waste management system. Sweden has progressed their waste management system so far that less than 1% of their waste is put into landfills. And of that waste that is put into landfills, it's usually things like construction waste, like asbestos. They aim for a circular economy through government programs like EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility, recycling aluminum cans and plastic bottles, converting food waste into natural gas, and creating facilities and mobile stations to help promote easy recycling and disposal of items. Circular economy is kind of like the new fancy reduce, reuse, recycle we used to say in the 90s. It just means recycling, reusing, and repairing goods so that they can have a longer life cycle. It does take the 90s perspective a step further by creating a culture around recycling with a goal being zero waste. So let's talk about some of the ways Sweden implements these different modes of circular economy. They first implemented EPR. Again, that's the extended producer responsibility in the early 90s, but it wasn't until 1994 that the government actually began to enforce regulations on the producers for the items that they make, their packaging, and their single use plastics and textiles. Textiles are just flexible materials made from natural or synthetic fibers such as clothing, yarn, upholstery, bandages, and so on. The regulations ensure that companies are responsible for their packaging and their products for the entire life cycle of the product. Enforcement of EPR helps produce products that can be repaired, reused, or recycled, which, as we know, is the basis for the circular economy. Retailers that sell electronics are mandated to accept old electronics back for proper disposal. But electronics and hazardous waste like batteries, paint, mercury thermostats can also be disposed of at special centers and mobile vehicles that come to neighborhoods. So, some items I was curious about were things like tires and mattresses. Producers are responsible for collecting and recycling tires and mattresses. Tires are usually shredded for materials used in construction, like rubberized asphalt, backfill in erosion control products, insulation, sound barriers, floor underlayment, roofing membranes, and in concrete to prevent cracks. Or it's used as fuel in cement kilns. Honestly, I didn't realize that you could use recycled tires for so many different things. Back when I was a kid, I remember that being like a big topic of conversation. And, you always see like cut up tires in playgrounds for cushion. And then you would see people use like big tires for like flower potters. Honestly, I thought those were the only two ways you could use it. So my heart is happy to hear that is being used for so many different things. And then also mattresses are sent to specialized recycling facilities that separate the metal, foam, and textiles, and they're sorted and recycled. Also, pharmacies are legally required in Sweden to take back medication, and these medications are then incinerated in very high temperatures to avoid chemical leaks into the ecosystem. Sweden also have these really cool vacuum stations, usually in larger cities, and they're color coded. So they have three containers, one for recycled paper, one for plastic, and one for residual waste. And these vacuum stations use underground pipes to transport the recyclables and waste to a central location. Sweden also has recycling machines in grocery stores known as pant stations, excuse me, that give you money in return for cans and bottles. When you buy canned or bottled drinks in Sweden, they actually charge you a pant, like a deposit per container. And when you recycle it, you get that pant back. You get anywhere from 1 to 3 Swedish crowns for each can or bottle you recycle. So 1 crown is equivalent to about 11 cents. And for aluminum cans, you would get two. Small plastic bottles, you'd get 2 crowns. And then large plastic bottles, you get 3 crowns. So basically, you get 20 to 30 cents per can or bottle that you recycle. Now, you can redeem your pant immediately, and it can be used for cash or discount on groceries, or you can donate it. Some donation options at these plant stations include via agroforestry, which sounds like it's about the most popular one. If you do like a Google search on these plant stations, that's kind of the one that comes up first and foremost. And it uses the money to plant trees. There's also Friends that does work with anti bullying. And there's the Swedish Sea Rescue Society. Also, local nonprofit associations can sign up at these plant stations and receive donations if they apply for it. Mm, And using these pant stations has increased recycling rates to nearly 90% for aluminum cans and bottles in Sweden. That's huge. Now, not all of Sweden's plastics can be recycled, like heavily soiled plastics or the hard to recycle plastics like polystyrene, which is for simplicity, it's basically styrofoam, and PVC, which includes things like window frames, vinyl flooring, fencing, shower curtains, and pipes. Also, unfortunately, the easy to recycle plastics still sometimes make their way into the incinerator. So, when I talk about the incinerator, I'm talking about Sweden's waste to energy plants, where they burn anything that cannot be repaired, reused, or recycled, and they turn it into energy to heat homes. I think this is what they use in Spokane, right? Heather, you guys have a waste to energy plant there, Spokane, Washington.
I know they have an incinerator, that's how they do
Yeah.
it, and just like a side, uh, issue, which I don't know if this is actually happening, it was just kind of, I guess you could say, the government rumor mill, is that they were thinking of opening up landfills and getting rid of the incinerator, trying to equate it to creating more than a landfill. For me, it sounds like, some kinda snaky way to, make money a different way
Yeah.
and do something that is less efficient. I don't know if the incinerator here creates energy that's reused. That I do not know. So that's a good question, but I know
Yeah.
they incinerate it, and it is at the time when Spokane started doing that, it was very ahead of its time as
Yes.
far as, like, efficiency, and nobody else was really doing it. So I know that it was a big deal that, like, "Oh, look at what we're doing. We're really
hmm
trying to assist in decreasing waste and not having a landfill." So it was really odd to me to hear that they were gonna try to do a landfill. I hope that's not true, but I haven't
Yeah.
really
So,
researched it.
I think that it probably is true in the research that I had done with like waste to energy plants in the United States. Initially, it was all the way back in the 80s when these waste to energy plants started popping up. And people like the ones who have kind of stayed. So initially there was about close to 100 of these waste to energy plants, and today now there's less than 70 that are currently still operating in the United States. So when like a garbage truck picks up your garbage and they go to the landfill or they go to the waste to energy plant, they have to pay to drop that load off to the plant or the landfill, and they call that tipping. And so areas where they had, like, the land space to continue to have landfills would charge a lower tipping, and so trucks would just go to the landfill instead because it's cheaper, because it costs money to run a waste to energy plant, and so you have to charge a little extra, and so these waste to energy plants would start to close down because of that. So, like, areas, like, more urban areas where they don't have the land mass to do that, these waste to energy plants have continued to operate. So I think the biggest thing, like the only thing that's gonna help is for our government to just mandate it like they do in Sweden, because it always boils down to money, unfortunately. So it's kinda sad to see that and to hear that. But anyhow, so back to Sweden, um, about 50% of Sweden's waste is actually processed in these waste to energy plants. They burn the waste and filter the emissions, which reduces them by 90 to 99%. And then they recover any metals left behind in the ash, which then leaves only about 1% of waste that is then brought to the landfill. So, example of things specifically that are brought to these landfills are like the flue gas residues from the incineration plants. So, like, when you have a chimney in your home, it's the stuff that you can clean out of your chimney, the residue. It's the same thing. They'll take that to the landfill. They'll also take construction waste, asbestos, contaminated soil, bricks, ceramics, and porcelain. So then, just recently in 2024, Sweden started to mandate food separation by households and businesses. For the most part, Swedes were already doing this because in 2005 they put a ban on disposing food in landfills. It sounds like the mandate more or less forced authorities to provide biogas receptacles in neighborhoods and business areas. This gives greater access to people to properly dispose of their food waste. And research shows that people are more likely to dispose of waste properly when it's made convenient. So, obviously. So the biogas system includes organic waste such as food scraps, sewage, and agricultural manure. They put the waste in oxygen-free tanks so that it can go through anaerobic digestion that produces a raw biogas. And for those of you who don't know what anaerobic is, it's just enzymes or bacteria that thrive in a oxygen-free environment. And so they digest the products and create this raw biogas. Then they purify this raw gas, and it is then upgraded to a bio CNG or compressed natural gas. And they use this to power vehicles like city buses, waste collection trucks, and taxis. The leftover organic byproduct, is from the digestion, everything that's not the gas, is then used as fertilizer, mainly in agricultural sites. So there still leaves textiles. Usually, once something becomes a textile, it's at the end of its life cycle. The easiest textiles to recycle are natural fibers like 100% cotton and wool, but most clothing today has a blend of cotton with polyester, which makes it difficult to upcycle with today's current technology. The best way to prevent synthetic textile waste thus far is to downcycle into rags, or another great way to lengthen the life of an article of clothing is to sell or donate it to a consignment or thrift shop. About 60% of the fibers used in clothing today is polyester, and only about 24% is made from cotton. So, usually these fibers are blended because it's more comfortable than 100% cotton, it's more durable, and it's cost effective. This contributes to this textile waste issue we've got going on because very few textile materials are 100% natural fibers. In Stockholm, Sweden, a company launched by H&M Group and Vargas called Sire is focusing on innovating polyester textile to textile recycling through a chemical process. This process includes shredding the textile, then depolymerizing it into monomers, then repolymerizing it back into fibers to be used for new textiles. This type of process renews the fibers as if they were brand new. With that said, even though the technology exists, the chemical process uses more energy than you would use to just use virgin polyester. And it's costly because of the collection, sorting, and the infrastructure needed to do this chemical process. But even with all the hurdles involved, Sire is pushing forward with the recycling and is partnering with the company Salinas, which produces virgin polyester. They plan to open a plant in Cedar Creek, North Carolina, and hope to use this facility as a blueprint to open future recycling centers. I personally see it as a sign that this type of recycling has potential when you see a company like Salinas want to invest in recycling their own products. It probably seems inevitable to them that the future holds textile to textile recycling, so they may be preparing for their own future, right? So, lastly, I want to mention Sweden has really embraced their circular economy as an entire culture. Thrift shopping, flea markets, and yard sales have become mainstream in Swedish culture, especially younger generations who value reducing their carbon footprint. And they also enjoy finding like vintage treasures that are no longer manufactured, which I think is super cool. Swedish thrift stores and flea markets are known for being clean and well organized so that it appeals to the consumer. They also love thrifting so much that some retail companies have started to integrate secondhand sections right there in their own stores. Sweden actually has a recycling mall where everything for sale is either repaired or secondhand. And I just think this is really cool because just recently in the last year, I've really kind of gotten into thrift shopping, and it's cost effective, but it's also exciting and such a treasure. And it makes me just want to go to Sweden for their thrift stores just to see what's there because how exciting would that be? And yeah, and that's all that I have on their waste management system that they have there.
That was really good and really interesting, Laura. I was
Mhm.
kind of looking stuff up as you were going along. I'm like,
Oh, cool.
how come we don't have more waste to energy plants here? So
Yes,
yeah, we don't have very many. Do you know which state has the highest capacity?
I don't. Is this a quiz for me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't, but if I were to guess, I would guess in like one of the New England states, like somewhere up there, like New York area. Am I right?
Well,
Am I
What are they
close?
called
that's
again?
waste.
Waste to energy plants.
Yeah. So you're not too far off because there are major operations in Massachusetts, Maryland, but
Uh-huh.
the highest capacity is in Florida. Good
What?
job,
Okay.
Florida.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I like
Yeah.
it.
What
Me
parts of
too.
Florida? Because I always think hurricanes.
Leak, Fort Myers, and Palm Beach. Go on to Palm
Mhm.
Beach. Renewable
I wonder
energy.
Surprising.
why they're so prevalent there. Maybe they just don't have landfill
Right.
land, like they have so many beaches and
And they have so
Some
many
touristy marsh, I guess.
wetlands.
marshes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, the
is
wetlands.
yeah,
I don't know,
for
but for
sure.
whatever reason, there should be more of them, like in America, and it's a culture thing, I think,
It
like you
is.
explained.
Money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to, why they're thinking about shutting down
Absolutely.
Spokane's.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. I mean,
Well, and then
in the long run, I bet you the cost. If we could figure out the system like Sweden has done, I bet you that they're
yeah.
so efficient at it that it's probably more cost effective than
Mhm.
pollution, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, actually, when I was reading it up and I didn't mention it earlier, the waste to energy plants altogether in Sweden only make up 7% of their CO2 emissions. And I don't know if that's like gross or net because also they use energy comes from these waste plants to heat homes.
Right.
And so I'm not sure if that 7% is a net or a gross contribution to the CO2.
Oh, gotcha.
Nonetheless, it's
That's
still a low number.
right. I was gonna say that's super low.
Well,
And
and
just
that's
as
only
a
one part of it too. I mean, what
mhm.
about the
Mhm.
plastics in the ocean and in
I
our
know.
water supply? And there's probably 100 other reasons to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it can't be for money. Just like this textile to textile recycling, it can't be for money. It has to be because we wanna take care of the pollution problem and, our land.
But at the same time, there it has to be. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be profitable, but I mean, I guess goodwill, it's donations. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think think how to make
Well,
it logical to
yeah,
do it.
I mean, it would just have to be kind of, like, enforced by law to make it,
It's an
because the
investment. You have
yeah.
to put in money first for to get that's the problem in our culture, I feel like in America especially, and, maybe other countries too, is that we want, like, instant satisfaction, and it's like, well, this is what people the naysayers are like, "Well, look how much money it's costing us." Well, there's so many there's so many things, what I won't get politically into right now, but that are costing us money where, like, why aren't we using that money for our future versus the here and now that is not
Mhm.
making things better, right? Like, you have to invest, and if you don't invest, it's just like starting a business, like, you gotta put money into it, you gotta,
Yeah.
spend money to make money, right? If you're gonna think of it like that, but you have to spend the money for our future to be better, like, we need to stop being so egocentric and think about the future of our
And
children and their children and so on and so forth.
And sometimes there's, like, some pride, self-pride in that as well, like, an example, my husband and I, we're very frugal, we do like to reuse things, it brings me joy to get something reused that I love, like, it's like a challenge or an excitement. We had He had, like, bought a, RV, not an RV, what's a trailer, camp trailer, with his dad, and his dad gifted his half to us so that we could have this camper, and it was, like, rotting out on one end, and, man, it took Ryan 2 weeks and hundreds of dollars to just tear it apart, rebuild the back end, put it all together. I painted it, and there's so much heart and soul into that camper, and it's really just a hunk of junk, and it's an eyesore, and it's not cute at all, and people think we're poor when we go camping, but we love that camper, and we take such good care of it because it's ours, and Otherwise, we could have just taken it and dumped it off somewhere and it would just be, you know, in the landfill. But I think there's an aspect of loving something too, which I think Sweden has done a good job of. That's kind of like
Yeah.
the circular economy idea.
Mhm. I'd like to be able to see what it's really like because we have an employee in Sweden. She'll be back here
Mm,
soon that maybe we'll should do a follow-up with her to kinda see, like, what is it really like? What do you how
mhm,
does it feel to you? What is it like for you? You know, because 'cause she's been there all her life except for the, short period of time she's been in the US, so I feel like maybe ahead of time I should have seen if she was available, but her hours are much different than
yeah,
ours. I think right now it's, like, nighttime because she
yeah,
works, like, 7 AM to 4 PM our time, and I think over there it's, like, 3 PM to 11 or something like that. I don't
mhm.
remember exactly how
Yeah,
their
it would
hours
be
differ.
interesting to see her perspective because when you look it
Mhm.
up online, they're like, "Swedes love to recycle. These vehicles come through their neighborhoods so they can recycle their electronics and their batteries. It's just their culture." And it's like, yeah, maybe that's true for some, but is that like, to hear it lived out as well.
Right. What's
I
the
I I used to
consensus as far
watch
as she knows it?
Yes, and I used to watch, a YouTube channel with my girls. It's a lady from Sweden, and she cleans houses, like, really bad hoarder houses for free, and, like, kinda just helps them get back on their feet and,
My
help them
nightmare.
with their
That's like,
mental health.
oh.
So, anyways, she would, like, collect all these bottles and pizza boxes, because when people are depressed, they don't have a good diet and so
Mhm.
on and so forth, and we would watch her take the bottles and the cans and put them in these pant stations, and then she would receive money back, and she'd buy them like, a new set of sheets with the money that she
Mm.
received from all
That's
these recycled
sweet.
bottles, which is really beautiful and really sweet, but to her, she's like, "Yeah, this is just like these have been here my whole life, like, this is no big deal,"
Be
and it's
such a good
convenient and
feeling
easy.
to do
Yeah,
that.
like, grandpa growing up, he would recycle everything, like, we would peel the labels off of the green bean can, and we
Mhm.
would
I still
cut
do
both
that.
sides off and squish it down, and he'd take it to the city, and he would sort it, and he would recycle, and he would burn, and all the things, mostly because he's cheap and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. But that takes a lot of work. That's not, like, practical for your everyday person, but if you have pant stations and you have these vacuum stations and you have a vehicle coming through the neighborhood to recycle and all you have to do is just toss it in, then of course it's going to be more well accepted and you can just make it a part of your everyday life, right?
I was really upset in Spokane when because we recycle a lot, like, our recycle bin is always overflowing, and it used to
Yes,
not
same.
be because they would come every week for both garbage and recycle, and then apparently not enough people recycle, which pisses
Oh,
me off
bummer.
in Spokane. So now they only do recycle every 2
Yeah,
weeks, and so it's like it's super frustrating because we recycle our garbage is always way less full than our
same.
recycle, and it's just like, freaking Americans.
Yeah, the same we were the same way in Colorado. It was never weekly though. It was always trash was weekly and then recycling was every other week. And it
Yeah,
was always more than the trash, the recycling.
Mhm.
same. Yeah, my recycling's always
It's a
overflowing. But
culture problem.
if I look out on the street every week, people's lids of their garbage cans are wide open, and me and my family will have at most 3 bags per week in my garbage can, unless, like, like when we were doing the camper, it would get when remodeling the camper, we'd fill it more. But it's amazing. I'm like, "What are you guys doing in your house? Like, how are you creating this much garbage?" We're a family of 4, you know, and we don't fill ours weekly. It's just I don't know how they do it, but they're probably putting a lot of recyclables in their garbage, just
Right,
not
that's what I'm
sorting
saying
it.
is they're not actually recycling, you know? It's not
Yeah,
hard.
it's a bummer. It's not.
It's
It's really easy, truly. Yeah.
and
And
I'll
honestly, when
probably
after I did all this research about Sweden, like, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'll be lazy and I'm like, "I'm not cleaning out the peanut butter jar to recycle it. I'm just gonna throw that one away. That's too much work." But having kind of read about how Sweden does things, it put a little bit more guilt on my heart. I'm like, "Okay, I'll clean out
Mhm.
the
Just
peanut
put more
That's
butter
what I
jar.
was
soap in
It's
it.
just
not that
gonna
big of a
say.
deal."
I was just gonna say, if nothing else, this episode will make us and our listeners a little more conscientious of just
Hopefully.
throwing things away.
Just guilt tripping them. Get guilt
Yeah.
Yep.
trip people into
Feel
recycling. "You better
guilty.
do it."
Feel guilty.
Yeah. Or just to even think about it, right? Because it's just not a
Yeah.
part of our culture, like Heather was saying, it's just not here for us, and so, in all
Mhm.
fairness, we just don't think about it, it's not. not a part of what
No.
we do
As I get
regularly.
older, I get more, like, obsessive about it, I think. I think about it more and, like, buying even, like, snacks for Oleana. I'm like, "Oh," I wanna buy in bulk because 'cause I'm like, I don't want every little
Yeah.
individual thing I buy or package because I'm like, "That's so much waste. That's so much," or even going,
Yeah.
like, getting out to eat, getting something in a container. Like, one comment to me, which is just because 'cause I'm a weirdo, but it was years ago by a nurse where I was like, "Oh, if I do try to, if I go to McDonald's, I try to get a salad if I can," which it's hard because, what I want a double cheeseburger, of course. And she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, yeah, but all the packaging and garbage." And I was like, oh, "You're right." And so, like, that's stuck in my head for some reason, like how much waste goes into just eating out, right? Versus
Yeah.
eating at home where you wash your dishes and you wash your pan you cooked with. I mean, you're using garbage to get to that point, but it's less garbage because you're cooking the food and it's not being packaged and to go. Anyways, just little things like that.
Well, and also, if you have a garden, it makes you compost. Like you want to compost because you want your garden to have healthy soil. And for those of you like me that were always taught, like, you don't put meat in your compost, you don't put dairy or eggs or whatever, that's a bunch of baloney, just so you know. All you got to do is bury it.
Oh, I think we
It's
lost
not
Rebecca.
hard.
Oh, you can just put anything in your what about chicken bones?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure you can put them in there. They might not,
What if you have to like crush them
biodegrade
up?
very quickly. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
maybe
sure
you
you
let them
could.
dry out and like
Or feed them to your
ha-
dog.
No, you just
take a
bury
hammer
them.
to them.
You just bury it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure. I was
Bury
just
it, add
curious.
wood chips, either one.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I've done eggs and then eggshells and like, yeah, sometimes I've done meat, but I worry about the cats in our neighborhood because I don't live out of town. Just another reason not to like cats be pooping in our garden boxes. And I'm sure they dig it up
Yeah.
and eat it too. So, anyways, another
Or you could get
story.
chickens. Chickens will eat anything. They're the best
Mm-hmm.
compost.
I know. I wish we could. I think we can have like a couple chickens in town. We just can't have a rooster, which I wouldn't need a rooster. I just don't have a big enough
Yeah.
backyard for chickens.
We went to our friend's house and he got his daughter some chickens, they're baby chicks. And my little 5 year
Oh,
old Sylvia, I took her out there and she's holding the babies. They're not teeny tiny anymore, but they're still little and cute. Well, I slept with her in her bed last night and she wakes up and looks at me and she does a big stretch and she says, Mom, can we go back to our friend's house so I can hold those baby chickens?
they are
Never
cute.
enough. They're so cute. I love their little noises. I know people say that chickens are irritating, but to me, they're like, "Brr." I think that is so soothing and relaxing. I love that noise.
I like it too. I like it too. We
Yeah.
had neighbors with chickens and it never bothered me,
Yeah. It's
any of the
very
noises.
soothing. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it didn't
cute.
ever bother
It's
me either.
cute. It's just like a little blah, 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 blah
Yeah.
all
It's
the
They're
just
so
the
time.
dang
silly.
rooster doing random
They had a
cock-a-doodle
rooster.
doos.
They had a rooster and he
They don't
just,
do it every day or all the
yeah,
time. They do it
yeah.
here and hither, but
It's
and we
very
had a rooster
infrequent.
next door too, and every time he crowed, I was already awake anyways, so they don't do it at,
Exactly.
like, the break of dawn. They
No,
just do it randomly throughout the day. Sometimes it's at three
exactly.
o'clock in the afternoon. That doesn't
Yep.
bother me. He's cute. I'm like, "Okay, alright, we know. You're the big guy. Okay, okay."
Mhm.
Right.
Silly little rooster. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, that's all that I have on Sweden's waste management system. Unfortunately, this isn't the norm across the world, but it sure could be. And I would be on board 100% if the US started to mandate recycling and provided easy access to everyone. So, hopefully, you guys would too. It's something to think about, maybe something to, tell our children and just kind of create that circular economy locally in your own community. So, thank you everybody for all your support listening to the previous episodes. If you haven't listened to them, go back. We've got some really great episodes, and we've got some really good ones coming up. So we certainly appreciate you tuning in today. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.